on a simple graph like the one behind me. And we see a lot of nice dots on the graph. What if we added on pictures? How would it then look like? It would look like this, quite interestingly. What we see up here is that the patient is actually healthy up here. And down here, we see a flare-up of the disease. What if we could use those simple data points that is in our supercomputer in the pocket and actually say to a patient, when they enter this data point here, or crowd of data points here, they are entering a disease or progression into a flare-up of their disease, sorry. There's a lot of things you can do with that. We can measure a lot of different endpoints. This is just some examples that you actually can dig into. So for Jose, it's like showcasing here many years ago that you can actually dig now into a patient. You can actually make a 3D hologram. You can't see it as the one that we see of Princess Leia here, but you can actually imagine that in this phone, there's millions of data points that we can dig into and maybe be able to understand Healthcare 2.0. So with that, I would like to welcome Maron from Israel and also Canada to actually explain a little bit about our challenge and what we did.
Thank you, John. Can you guys hear me okay out there? Can you guys hear me okay back there? Kind of, so-so? Okay. So what I want to talk about today is the Passive Data Challenge, which really is coming to its conclusion today after many, many months of international efforts. But the first question that I always get asked is, what the heck is passive data? And John kind of alluded to it before, but essentially it's data that's being collected by the supercomputer that we all have, which really is an extension of ourselves, of course with the user's consent, but without our active engagement. It could be things as simple as our location, our GPS location, or even the amount of ambient light that's around us. And one of the things that we're starting to see more and more is passive data being used across multiple industries. A little less in healthcare, but in industries like, for example, cybersecurity and fraud prevention. So believe it or not, you can actually get quite a bit of information by how we interact with our smartphones. We can tell if a user is right-handed, for example, or if maybe they have a mobile issue with maybe their shaky hands. We can even tell if they have a broken screen. So these dots you see means that they're cracking the screen, they try to scroll and dots. So you can actually put together, just with how we interact with our cell phones, the angle by which we hold it, a very interesting profile, which today is being used for fraud prevention, so that if I have somebody else's username and password, I still won't be able to get into the system because they'll know it's not me. Passive data is also being used quite a bit in fintech. So today, for example, if you want to get a loan, especially in North America, everybody has a credit score ranging from 300 to 850. The challenge is that the credit score is built on only 50 different data points. So how likely are you to repay back the loan? And the challenge is that also a lot of young people don't yet have a credit score because they don't have financial history. So now we're seeing a lot of interesting companies that are really using passive data to build a profile on how likely is somebody going to repay their loan. They look at things like, how often do you leave your house with less than 5% battery? They look at how often do you speed on the freeway? How often are you late for meetings? And there's a whole bunch of tens of thousands of data points that you can collect from a smartphone to figure out, is this an individual that will repay us back the loan or not? So one of the things we thought about is, like, there's all these amazing innovations in passive data and all these other industries. Can we put something together that's unique and exciting for digital health? And the answer was yes. And about 3 months ago, we launched a challenge. We had 5 tracks. The first one, we really wanted to figure out, can we uncover hidden diseases with a smartphone? So can my smartphone tell me, maybe, Myron, you don't know, but you might be pre-diabetic based on your certain behaviors. We wanted to look at things like medication adherence. If we can profile, for example, users on how likely they are to repay back loans, can we, for example, estimate how likely are they to adhere to taking their medication as prescribed? It's a very big challenge. The third thing is, can we predict disease triggers? So for skin diseases, things we're very passionate about, believe it or not, it sometimes takes patients 7 to 10 years to figure out what triggers their psoriasis. through a lot of experimentations, and it's really multifaceted. Can we use the smartphone and all the data it collects to help patients learn about their own body quicker? And then, as John mentioned, digitizing clinical trials. It's very important. There are clinical trials where the patient interacts with their doctors once every 6 months. But what happens in between? How can we get real-life data so we can really help the patients and understand the patient? And then our fifth track was just a wild card. If anybody else had some crazy ideas of how to use passive data in any way to help the patients, we were super open about that. So those are kind of the 5 areas that we kind of put out to the world. We had a very interesting process where we launched it, we selected some finalists, and then we actually took all the finalists you see today through a mini acceleration program. So we spent 2-3 weeks with them, putting them together with folks like our Chief Medical Officer, John, and our CTO. We actually had a venture capitalist that focuses on passive data review these ideas. We put them in front of Cleveland Clinic and in front of a passive data expert at Stanford. So the idea was to give the teams a lot of value. And then pitch day, actually we had a pitch day this week, we selected our top 5 finalists. And you'll see today that we have 1 finalist from Singapore, 1 from Denmark, 3 from Israel. So we really flew them from all over the world to be here today. And the idea is to announce the winner. And what is the prize? What do the winner get? So today the winner of the competition gets 10,000 euro prize. They also get 3 months of incubation with the Leo Innovation Lab here in Copenhagen. And then I will let Ophir introduce eHealth Ventures from Israel. They also have the opportunity to receive about 0.8 million term sheet for the winners. And obviously there has to be a connection with Israel in any way, some sort of partnership, but Ophir will tell us a little bit more about that. And I think that's all the slides I have. I wanted to kind of give the judges an opportunity to introduce themselves. We have Kristian, Ophir, and Caroline. Maybe you guys can say a few words, and then we'll jump into the finalists.
Well, hello. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm really looking forward to hearing all of your presentations. I'm a tech entrepreneur with plus 25 years of experience, starting my first internet company back in 1992, which is a long time ago. I have been involved, I'm a serial entrepreneur, been involved in many different kind of companies within different realms, and also pursued a professional board career. I've been on the board of LEGO, also on venture capital funds, the National Danish Venture Capital Fund, Vækstfonden, and so forth. Today I'm a member of the Government's Disruption Council, the National Disruption Council, headed by the Prime Minister, 10 ministers, a number of CEOs and representatives from different walks of life. Very interesting to look at how do you secure that the whole society at large is prepared for the, all the changes that are going to come. Yes.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ophir from Tel Aviv in life science investments for the past 25 years in VCs, and also as the CEO of a tech transfer organization out of Hadassah, which is Israel's leading hospital in Jerusalem. I'm now with eHealth Ventures. We are a VC and a tech incubator out of Tel Aviv, investing exclusively in digital health projects, early stage, high risk, but that's okay. We're backed by some large multinationals like Amgen, which is a biopharmaceutical giant, like the Cleveland Clinic, which Miron mentioned, and Maccabi, which is Israel's leading HMO. And we've seen over 700 companies in this space alone, made 8 investments, and really looking forward to hearing these guys today. And also strengthening the ties with Denmark. I think there's a lot to be learned, and the economies are similar, a very strong, innovative culture, so I'm very happy to be here.
Whoa, I'm not going to battle here, because I think But anyway, my name is Kristian Hart-Hansen. I started up Leo Innovation Lab 3 years ago, and I will talk a little bit about why this, I feel this is super interesting. For me, healthcare shouldn't be a luxury, but should be a right for everybody. As it is now, it is not the case. There's a lack of healthcare professionals, there's a lack of disease knowledge among the healthcare professionals, and there's economic pressure on the systems we know today. I believe very much, and we at Leo Innovation Lab, that health tech is one of the solutions that can help in the Western world, but most importantly also in the third world, in order to give health to the people. And that's why I believe that especially the passive data collection is super interesting. Everybody has a smartphone. What we can get out of that and how we can drive that and turn that into healthcare is super interesting. So I'm very excited to be here, and I'm looking very much forward to hear the pitches.
I just need to turn this on, sorry for that. So with that introduction, I would like to introduce our first finalist, Jonas. Please come up here, give him a hand. And until Jonas is getting ready, I can just tell you that we had 48 applicants for this competition globally. And we also had a lot of Danish companies, but we ended up only with one finalist from Denmark.
It's an app where patients suffering from a skin disease can report their outcome regarding the effect and side effects of their exact combination of drug, skincare products, and self-care actions. Upon data analysis.
There you go.
Hi, my name is Jonas. I'm a pharmacist. I have a PhD in chemistry, and currently I'm an educational consultant. In a moment, you're gonna hear more about my idea called My Skin, My Way. It's an app where patients suffering from a skin disease can report their outcome regarding the effect and side effects of their exact combination of drug, skincare products, and self-care actions. Upon data analysis, these outcomes can potentially help people worldwide. I hope you're gonna enjoy my talk.
Thanks. Den der. Kom ind sådan. Gør den der. There we go.
Hi, my name is Jonas, and yeah, I'm the Danish finalist. I'm gonna talk more about my idea called My Skin, My Way. Almost 900 million people in the world, as reported by the WHO, suffer from a skin disease. And actually, it's the fourth leading cause of years lost due to a non-fatal disability. Even so, at this day and age, a lot of people living with a skin disease feel like guinea pigs. Even before they get the chance to meet a general practitioner or a doctor somewhere else, they try different skincare products and self-care actions, such as cutting down on dairy products in order for their skin to be better. The problem is, when they go to the doctor, they get a drug prescribed, then they might go to the pharmacy or somewhere else and get a skincare product recommended, and then they might try some self-care action on the side as well. Unfortunately, it takes years for them to find the right combination of drug, skincare product, and self-care actions before their skin gets better. And actually, if you went to the session that John hosted this morning, 2 people living with psoriasis actually told their life story, and this life story exactly matches what I just described for you. And I also noticed this when I've spoken privately and professionally with a lot of people suffering from a skin disease, since I work as a pharmacist as well. So these people, they feel like guinea pigs. They feel like it takes years for them to find the optimal combination of these three things, which frustrates them a lot. And also, they can't even remember a lot of the times what combinations they've tried. If I ask them, so what actually helped you a couple of years ago? Well, I don't know, I can't remember. So on top of feeling a guinea pig, they can't even remember all the things they've tried. So that's sort of from the citizen point of view. If we look at the healthcare professional point of view, I'm equally frustrated. When the doctor prescribes a drug and they come to the pharmacy, I have no data to support choosing one skincare product over another to help them with their skin. I have no data to support recommending one self-care action over another. I only have some data showing that one drug works well for a certain skin disease, and for some skincare products I have some data. And I know Leo Innovation Lab are working at the moment on gathering more data on skincare products. but I have no data showing the effect of the combination of drug, skincare products, and self-care actions, which is actually what the people out there living with skin diseases every day are trying. We have no data on that. I have no data to rely on as a healthcare professional when somebody with a skin disease comes into the pharmacy to say, right, when you're prescribed this drug, this skincare product might be the best for you. This self-care action might be the best for you. And that is the question I'm posting. Can we gather some data so that we can recommend some treatment package for these people in order for them no longer to feel like guinea pigs, but feel like they are in control of their disease? That's the question that I'm posting. So what have people tried to answer this question? Well, the Danish Psoriasis Association, along with some collaborators, have tried to make an app where you can at least get an overview of the things you have tried. You can get an overview of your symptoms. You can get an overview of whether you've tried a drug or a skin self-care action or a skin product, but not specifically what drug you've tried or what skincare product you've tried. Also in America, the National Eczema Association and researchers over there have developed an app where you can take a picture of your skin, you can rank where your symptoms are, and then you can suggest what might have caused this flare-up of the skin disease that I'm suffering from. And then researchers collect these data, look at them, and see if they can find reasons for these flare-ups. So I was thinking to myself, right, can we help them? Can we help these people get an overview of what they've tried, combined with using an app to collect data of what they have tried, to collect data of their drug, skincare product, and self-care actions? Then we might find the optimal treatment for them. We might research into why are these treatment packages the best for these patients. So this is where My Skin, My Way comes into the picture. An app where patients or citizens on a weekly basis take a picture of their drug, note what dose of drug they're using, take a picture of the skincare product and how much they're using of this skincare product, and also what self-care actions they have tried, combined with ranking their symptoms and their side effects. Then we'll get an overview of the combinations they have tried, what combinations seem to be effective, and then we will research into what optimal treatment packages can we recommend all these citizens. So hopefully AI can help me data analyze all these data. So if I hopefully win, in these 100 days, you can always ask yourself, what's in it for me if I'm a citizen? Well, you get an overview of what you've tried. You can share this with your healthcare professional, and you're helping people worldwide with finding a treatment package that might help them. Of course, that might not be enough, so I have to spend time finding out whether this app will be something they will use long term, or whether it might be an app they just put down in the pocket and forget about it. I have to find out exactly what will motivate them to continue using this drug this app in order to be able to collect all these data and help all these people worldwide. That's one issue I need to find out. And of course, I need to engage with a lot of different other stakeholders as well. But if I'm successful doing this, as a healthcare professional, then hopefully I can recommend, based on a drug that a doctor has prescribed, I finally have data to say, I will recommend you using this skincare product. I can recommend you doing this self-care action in order to be better. And hopefully every person out there living with a skin disease will think to themselves, now I'm no longer a guinea pig. I'm in control of my disease. They can finally say, it's my skin and it's my way. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jonas.
Thank you.
A very interesting presentation. So now the judges, you have 5 minutes to actually ask some questions. Feel free.
That is so interesting, and you really see an opportunity out there, and there is a need for your idea and for your product. There might be some issues with the active input that you have to give as a patient. So what would be the instant reward for me if I had psoriasis? Because as I see it, it's a long term. I have to put in a lot of effort weekly, entries into this before I see something come out of it. So can you tell us a little about what you think about the instant reward?
I tried asking a few people I know privately, and also Stine, who was there earlier today, who came here, and I presented my idea for her to ask her what would motivate you to do this. And she said in the time in between seeing a healthcare professional, she can use this app to get an overview of what she has tried and what might have helped in order to remember what she has done. So that was one motivational factor for her. She said, if perhaps I could implement a feature where you could contact a healthcare professional whenever you need advice, some personal advice on that disease. Well, I've just noticed that this healthcare action helps me, but can you help me think about ways to implement that in my daily life? She said that if that feature was implemented, she would be motivated to use this long term as well. So yeah, I would need to find some features that motivates them beyond just feeding data, if you can say so. Yeah. Thanks.
I just have one question. Have you considered having like a kind of some things that will, when you see something and when you see some drug interactions, when you see something that other people on the thing have looked at, that it will remind you that this might be a good way to go forward because other people have had successes with this? Or is that, and also adding on images so you can start looking at how the effectiveness of a treatment for that person is compared to others?
So taking a picture of your skin, is that what you're thinking? And then you can be matched with another person with the same?
Yeah, or like taking a picture of your skin and development of your disease and thereby seeing how your treatment actually affects over time.
Right. Yeah, a bit like Imagine as well, just combined with the treatment effect. Yeah, that could be interesting. I know as well in SoMentor, you can share data with another person with the same disease as you, and then you can get input for them as well. So I thought that was a very interesting feature as well. But yeah, that's an interesting idea to implement as well.
Interesting. I mean, I have the same issue with having people to constantly putting in data, but you also mentioned it yourself as one of the tricky things in this one. But interesting case.
Oh, thank you.
Good. No more questions. Thank you so much for the doctors. Jonas, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. So the next finalist has traveled around the world from Singapore, arrived this morning to Copenhagen Airport. Niraj, thank you so much for coming here today. We'll just see a small movie about you.
Hi Leo, my name's Maureen Reid. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cogniant. We're going to take a little bit of your time to introduce you to our multidisciplinary team that can't be there today.
Hello Leo, I'm Dr. Preeti Kothari, MD Dermatology for Cogniant.
Hello Leo, I'm Roshi McCarthy, Senior Clinical Psychologist for Cogniant.
Hi, I am Forum and I advise Cogniant on information security related topics.
I hope you've enjoyed meeting the team. Now over to Niraj Kothari, our CTO, who's going to explain what Cogniant actually is.
Well, thank you, Leo, for having us here. It's a pleasure to land this morning. So at Cogniant, we call passive data collection and interpretation of the disease as digital phenotyping. So a little bit of that in a while, but just to explain problem, through research we have found out that eczema and skin conditions are affected because of stress and mental health conditions. And either they are the cause or they are the effect of stress in the human being. And stress and depression and anxiety are often at times undiagnosed and hidden diseases when it comes to skincare and skin conditions. And that's a problem because that leads to ultimately lower quality of life for patients. At Cogniant, we started a couple of years ago with digital phenotyping platform. So even before I go into solving the problem, I'll just briefly explain you what digital phenotyping is. As John and others rightly pointed out, your smartphone is rich repository of data. So every human being right now is connected through smart devices, not only with one or two multiple devices on the digital world. And we use this data to characterize the human behavior. Our platform is able to capture many of different key data points, either passively collected or actively collected through the smartphones of the individuals. And we use this to predict their behavior or predict the hidden comorbidities. And it's been proven through different research and more than 20 papers that these digital phenotyping actually is helping to improve the quality of life, helping to improve ways through which you can engage the consumer which are more meaningful to them and not very reactive. So this is roughly about how platform looks like. It's a mobile app on Android and on iOS, and also a back-end data analytics platform which collects a lot of passive data based on the study, based on what is the outcome we are trying to get at. Specifically for, and this app is live in Singapore, so we have more than 100 patients, but most of these patients are using it for psychology and psychiatric care. We have installed in a couple of psychology clinics in Singapore, and also we're currently undergoing clinical trial with one of the largest psychiatric hospitals. This is how it looks like after the design thinking and extensive workshops with the users. It's a chatbot, we call it Sally, which basically is your health coach and asks you questions in order to collect data. And also we have the backend platform where you can see the passive data collected and corresponding risk indicator because of that passive data. In terms of the Leo challenge, these are the two hypotheses we wanted to solve. First hypothesis is eczema patients. The stress and the depression related to eczema patients can be predicted using passive data. And also the flare-ups related to eczema can be predicted using passive data. And for that, we are hoping to have these things ready for the pilot. If you are awarded the opportunity to pilot, we wanted to create an app especially for eczema patients where we'll collect their symptoms for eczema, and along with that psychological symptoms, we'll send periodic reminders to them in order to check on them. And this is done through the push notifications. In the back end, we are collecting passive data, which is activity, location, sleep, usage of the smartphone, also usage of the mobile apps. How much times are you on WhatsApp? How much time are you on Facebook? And use that to predict some of the behavior. Use that to understand at what time of the day are you using these apps. Is it late in the night, early in the morning? Is it on a weekday? Is it on a weekend? Is your pattern changing based on the day of the week? Or if it's a public holiday and you have unusually large number of activity, or you're supposed to go to office but you're not moving from home, this can be predicted, and we are collecting this data. Very important, our backend data repository is anonymized, HIPAA compliant, and is end-to-end encrypted using state-of-the-art encryption technology. This is how the roadmap will look like. If we get selected, we'll spend initial days to get an MOU signed with healthcare institutions. We have one healthcare institution in India really interested to work with us. We have signed a letter of intent with them, but again, we'll work with Leo to see which is probably the best site to do this kind of study. Get initial 5 users on our app first, iterate it to make it fit for the market, and then go for 30 days to collect the data. I understand 30 days might be too ambitious, but we'll try our best, and then try to get how much we can get. And train our network, neural networks, and the hope is to end of the day create an API, which is the Cognien's digital phenotyping API, which either can be used through our app or can be integrated with other apps for predicting this behavior. This is, I briefly explained, I'm running out of time, I'll probably skip. This is how it will look like once the Cognien API is live. Once the API is live, it will predict your risk of depression or stress, and based on that, a user can be told what clinical protocol to follow. Either it could be simple thing, just get out of home and go for coffee, or it could be somebody from the care team calling them to check up on them. Again, we'll work with our Leo if we get selected in terms of registration, how the business case will look like, where would be the product of most value. We are open to these conversations. There's a team, I'll just skip and I'll just give you a quick demo that will probably just give you a sense of what it looks like today, and if given an opportunity, how we can use this for caring for eczema patients.
Can use to track them?
So Sally basically is your health coach, and it uses CBT in order to collect data from you and also give some positive behavioral nudges or positive reinforcement messages. This is the example of how we track the sleep without even asking the question to user, when did you sleep or when are you waking up? This is done through passive data, and it gives you in chart format, are you improving week over week or your sleep is going down? This is just for sleep. We can do it for other activities
and track
as well.
different dimensions.
And these are different
using Sally.
tracking mechanisms
It includes
available
your
today
mood, sleep,
for Sally.
activity, custom-based. Collects this data. Let's see in backend what is the passive data captured by Sally.
Yeah, so these indicators are numeric.
These are the indicators
non-invasive,
which capture
and
user
doesn't
behavior.
give a lot of details about
which we
patient's privacy,
quantify
but we can use it to predict the risk factor for that person at that time. So that's all we had. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Niraj. Judges?
Thank you. That was very impressive. And CBT has been effective in many similar areas. Why did you pick eczema out of the wide multitude of dermatological conditions that you could have focused on?
Mainly because we are based in Singapore. So in Singapore, eczema, 21% of Singaporeans suffer through eczema. And also, in Asia, eczema is more prevalent as compared to psoriasis. So that was the intention, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, let's say that you didn't win. Would you then still continue down this track, or would you continue on where you are now?
Yeah, so we are already on this track, and we are we already are having clinical trials with the biggest psychiatric hospital in Singapore. We are having multiple conversations with other pharmas who want to do it for their, so one of them want to do it for sleep disorders, use passive data to proactively improve sleep for their patients. And some of them even want to do it for cardiovascular disorders. So there is a lot of interest by other pharma as well. So we'll continue on that path.
Thank you for a very impressive, very fast introduction. Could you elaborate a little on your business model?
At the moment, we are SaaS, so hybrid model where we do have one-time implementation, customization cost, which we charge to the client, and then we have a monthly subscription price based on the number of users you want to onboard. And we are already revenue generating. So yeah, we have like 5-digit revenue at the moment, and we have bookings of 100,000 Singapore dollars, which is about 80,000 USD. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Perfect. So I wanted to welcome our next presenter, Amir, who comes from the world of cybersecurity, and he's going to tell us how we can use voice to help patients.
I'm CEO of Cisco. I'm here to talk about emotions in the human voice. Always a thing with this speaker. So again, 21 years ago, a terror attack took the lives of 3 young mothers in Israel. I was then working with Israeli security forces, and we had prior knowledge about this event, and we still could not stop it, which was a turning point in my life. I then decided to start and building a new system for access control. The idea was to involve with it some new high-tech lie detection technologies, so little we know. And the idea was to build something very small, very quick, that would be very direct to a certain market. And again, so little I know, what was started as a very small journey turned to be my life journey since then. This is 21 years of research now. And what started as a very minimal type of lie detector turned to be 151 new sets of biomarkers that we were able to identify in the human voice. We all heard many stories today about how depression and how mood disorders really affect our lives and the skin conditions. And the truth is that stress is even much more relevant than many other clinical states. What we want to do really today is to figure out if there is indeed a scientific connection between stress. Can we quantify stress? Can we quantify stress in the different phases of the diseases? And is it in fact stress? Because stress in psychology refers to a very general and broad type of definitions, and it may in fact be anxiety. It may in fact be some type of frustration. And we want to understand if this is really the case. So, layered voice analysis, that's a technology that Nemesisco has been developing for the past 21 years. It deals with the easiest output the human body generates. That's our voice. It's very trivial. I can hold my cell phone, I can answer a simple question, and my data is then recorded. We can run analysis on segments that vary from 2 seconds to, tell your life story, and we can pinpoint these two. The idea again is to actually build a platform that will assist all of us in the future. Now, there's a difference between what we do in voice and others. The difference is based on the phonetics and non-phonetics nature of what we do. Phonetics deals with cues you hear. Everybody knows it. When you go to the street, you see someone you think you know, and you go, "Hi, how are you? So nice to see you." And your voice expresses happiness, right? But in fact, inside you feel uncertain. You don't really know who the person is. So our voice is actually misleading many times with the different emotions. You call the call center of your favorite cellular company, and you start shouting, right? You say, I'm so angry, I want to speak with the manager right now. Now, I was expressing anger, but am I angry? I'm not, right? So this is where Nemesisco really comes to play. We deal with the genuine emotions. We deal with things in the voice that are below the 20 millisecond marker, while traditional phonetics deal with cues you can hear and therefore can regulate. And that's the 20 milliseconds and marker and up. There are others that do voice analysis. Our parameters are different. 2 patents, by the way. We've created different concepts around it. We talk about many different emotions that we can identify. We've created this simple illustration of what we call the emotional diamond. If you look at it for a second, you'll see that we can actually separate between energy and stress. Energy is everything that pushes us forward. Stress is everything that makes me go back. We've got emotions versus confidence. Confidence is actually standing for logic. We've got passion versus thinking. Not a trivial opposition, but if you give it a second of thought, you'll see the contradiction there. And concentration versus uneasiness and states of embarrassment. Again, not a trivial thought, but funny enough, you cannot be concentrated and embarrassed at the same time. We deal with many other emotions that are not represented on the diamond, but we focus on these ones because they are the more natural ones. This is how it looks in real life. This is a walking demo. This is a live company. We've been selling solutions for the past 20 years. This is a nice lady in Brazil using the system to prevent insurance fraud. This is a simplified report that goes along with the system. There used to be a movie here, but it didn't work well. So. Not to neglect the academic side, we've been working with many universities around the world. We work continuously with 4 universities, with Kroll University in Hungary, with the GFSU in India. We work with Moscow University and we work with ASU. We've got actual research that we work together hand in hand. We did a lot of research in other places too. But what is actually on the table behind me, that's data that was collected on a continuous manner from prison facility in the United States. We listen to the inmates, we try to predict who of them is about to get maybe too depressed, maybe commit a suicide, maybe just even want to attack some other of his friends, maybe he wants to be friendly. And what it proved us that we can in fact track the changes in their moods over time, and we can in fact predict such behaviors. So this all brings us to what we want to do, and strange enough, I see this concept coming much more often than I thought. We want to build a bot, and the bot will be the one that will prompt you to submit your voice samples in the time frames that we want them to, in the points that we think that it's convenient for you. And it's a very simple process. It's a very short procedure. You can take any type of data. The idea also is to create an ongoing engagement and to marry the data that we get from the voice, all the emotional states, and marry that with a picture that is provided by some of the other facilities that we see here. I cannot say that this is in any way scientific, but this is what we had to do in 3 days. So we did submit some requests to the public, we did get some voice data out, and what we could really see is some very unique changes in stress patterns. If you look at the control group, it's much lower and much more harmonized in the stress indicators distribution across the speech, compared to the patient 1, patient 2, that had a much more diverse distribution and a much higher center. As I mentioned, we've been around for the last 21 years. We have 7 people in the headquarters. We have got about 250 people around the world. We operate in 9 main centers around the globe. We have 4 mains of activity. Unfortunately, medical applications at the moment is not one of them. We work with HLS, we work with HR, we work with fraud prevention and call centers. Medical applications, if we are to go on this journey, will be with one of the big companies and with partners of that kind. The end game is to build a platform. We see an app as a step in the way, but the end game is to build a platform and come up with offerings for the pharma companies to integrate our technology inside, make use of their brains and our skills. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amir. Judges, any thoughts, questions?
I wanted to ask you if you have given any thought to the entire consent/privacy issues coming up with listening to people and using their voice as an indicator, HIPAA compliant, and I mean, these are not inmates in prison, so it's different.
Absolutely, and this is actually where we come into, I think, a much better position, because we don't actually have to listen to anything. There is an algorithm that runs on the data, keeps the data, throw out all the voice samples. We don't keep anything. If we choose, with partners to do some additional research and use this data alternatively, and you can get the compliance from the people, that's a different story. But I think that what we can offer is really the raw data that is non-reversible. You cannot reproduce who the person is from our emotional data.
Super interesting. I mean, have you thought about any business model on the health part of it?
We thought about actually, the freemium style. I actually today, when I was listening to the people talking about equality in healthcare, I actually thought about something else. It can actually be a volunteer payment. It can actually be something that if you enjoy it, pay something. Again, this is not a business model for me. Okay, we don't do that. We make our money from other directions. But I think that white labeling is actually the better solution for the pharma industry. And actually, if you think about it, we do a lot of other things. We have solutions that goes into call centers, so we can actually sit in a call center in the pharma industry. It may require a little tweaking, but we can do a lot of good there. We can build solutions that will go into medical facilities and will do a total emotional analysis on people coming into that facility before they even see anyone else. So you have this data that can marry with other indicators, and this is the first time, I think, that there is a microscope that can actually look into your emotions. There was never a measurement tool like that.
Thank you so much for a very convincing demonstration.
Thank you.
You've been at this for 21 years, but in different areas, I understand. Yes. Now, why are you coming into this competition, and what are you hoping to do with those 100 days? Could you elaborate on that?
Well, as I mentioned, we work in 4 different fields, and and medical is not one of them. If we are to win this, we will start a daughter company. We do that sometimes when we have some unique ideas. And then we build a company, we hire the right people to run it, we give it a license to do what it needs to do, and we'll take it from there. I'm not the best person not to think about the business models here, and I admit that, and I'm not the best person to run this company, and you know, I'm not a doctor, I'm not going to stand on any stage saying anything different. But I think that if you get the right people, you can do wonders. And if you ask what is my motivation of being here, this is for the heart.
Amir. Our next presenter is Chen. Chen's going to tell us how we can reduce medical errors in medical procedures.
Came over from Israel. Our goal is to improve treatment efficiency and reduce medical errors by listening to medical procedures. Thanks for inviting us.
All right. Yeah, I can be here. So I'm Chen. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Ahlefeldt, and I would like to show you Ahlefeldt. Oh, that's the wrong font, so excuse me for that. I would like to talk about our approach to optimize medical care. So Ahlefeldt had been founded by me and by Ophir. I'm working in enterprises and startups for the last 20 years as a VP R&D, CTO, Chief Architect. My previous role had been a chief architect of a big AI group in HP. Ophir is a product technological business development executive in the telecommunication field. Ophir is also commanding a medical unit in the army of 700 physicians. And unfortunately, Ophir is also a power user of the Israeli healthcare system due to a chronic disease of his daughter. We came with passion in order to really help the medical procedure, to improve medical procedures. So medical problems are the third leading cause of death in the US, with a direct cost of $20 billion and readmission on a system that is already overloaded. Let's talk about our first use case, which is in-hospital resuscitation. The average survival rate is 25%, whereas excellent hospital may outperform and reach 38%, and there are other hospitals that reach only 9% of survival rate. And the gap is huge. According to researchers, the gap is attributed to medical error and to the human factor. So let me talk about our application, our product. We track the verbal communication between the medical staff, the voice, ambient voices. We also take the monitor data, monitor the defibrillator or anything else, combine it with the most accurate medical procedures, and optionally with the patient's record. We take all the data together, analyze the data together using artificial intelligence to understand what happened in the procedure, which algorithm was selected, what are the actions that had been made, what is the patient condition, what is the treatment efficiency. And according to this data, we provide recommendations, like you have now to, or it's recommended to give an electric shock because you haven't given one. And also we write the EMRs, the medical records, automatically and accurately. So let me show you a short demo about the product. And the data is taken from the American Heart Association. The video is taken from the American Heart Association.
The patient's gone into VFib. Start chest compressions.
Starting compressions.
Mandel, you'll be on defibrillator. Shelley, you'll be recording.
Recording.
Sam, you'll manage the airway. Dana, have you been able to establish an IV access yet?
So I'll be short. We track the voice and
I've tried several
analyze the
times, but
text.
it's failed.
Using
Okay,
the
let's
text
move on to
analyzed,
IOX.
we understand what's the current medical stage. We give recommendations according to the medical stage. We can write the medical records according to the data collected. We can also even indicate things on the crash card to indicate a certain drug that should be now provided, and so on. That's all right. Let me move. We have to. I did something wrong. Yeah, let's move on. Yeah. All right. So, as I said, researchers said that the human factor may be solved, or one of the solutions for human factors are the awareness of the medical teams, systematic review and debriefing of the medical procedure, and that's actually what we are doing. Our products will bring a very big value proposition to all stakeholders, to the medical teams, to the hospitals, in optimization of the treatment, providing patient safety, and so on. So resuscitation is our first use case, but this platform can be used for many other medical procedures in hospital, in clinics, and also for telemedicine. We had a great discussion with dermatologists and with techno-anthropologic from Leo Pharma that found our product very effective for many dermatologic cases, including, for example, a full body scan, where you can get the data about the patient on real time, provide the suggestions, and document the procedure automatically. Telemedicine is also a very valid and very good use case, where you can focus the physician on the patient with the patient data, using the voice recognition and the artificial intelligence, give accurate information, and summarize the procedure automatically. Few words about Ahlefeldt. Founded last year, we are a pre-seed company of the Technion, and was funded by the Israeli Innovation Authority. We have 4 pending patents, and we are about to file another 2 patents. We have a multi-stage and multi-year contract with Rambam, which is a trauma level 1 hospital in Israel, and with Laniado Hospital, and also with a simulation center in Paris. We have installed our prototype version of the product in those hospitals, and we plan to conduct an academic research on our product. We won few recognitions in the last few months. We are one of the top Israeli leading healthcare initiatives for 2018. We had been invited to participate in Sanofi Lab at Vivatech in France and won the first prize over there. We have also recruited an advisory team. Doron Ben-Ami, our commercial advisor, was the former head of Merck in Eastern Europe and Israel. Dr. Yair Erez is our medical and economic advisor. He's a partner in McKinsey & Company in London. And Dr. Arnon Schwartz. That's all. We believe that we can reduce medical errors, and we'll be happy to continue working with Leo Pharma. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank. Judges, please.
That was a very convincing presentation. Thank you so much. I wonder if you would elaborate a little on the ethical dilemmas here that I'm thinking of, when you look at self-driving cars, who's got the responsibility if something goes wrong? So when you're having these automated suggestions during procedures, during surgery, where is the liability? Who's got the responsibility? What have you been thinking about? What problems, challenges do you see ahead?
So thank you for your question. The answer is very simple. We only provide suggestions. We come to help the physician in the procedures. We would like, and we are working with the techno anthropologists, but also with UX people, in order to be able to just emphasize that these are recommendations, and that's really important, especially in the procedures that we are currently covering. There's no 100%.
the procedure you're working on now, which is a very noisy, multi-voice environment, high stress, I understand your power there. How can that be transferred into the world of dermatology, which is quiet? Usually there's one physician and one patient in the room. Where do you bring added value to that environment?
So true. Resuscitation is a procedure with a lot of noise and many players. But when the physician will understand the value of the product, the value of the product about summarizing the procedure automatically, getting information throughout the procedure, I believe that those physicians will cooperate with the product and will communicate with the product. That's regarding to the full body scan, which is, by the way, in this procedure, the physician is with the patient, and therefore a tool that gives AI or data to the physicians in the room can be valuable.
There's two things. First of all, I mean, you mentioned telemedicine or kind of using it there only, but you're focusing on voice. Is it only voice, or is it also written, or is it just linking into the procedure or to the treatment guidelines in general that is your force, or is it the voice recognition part of it?
So we have begun with voice. We have many other options or indications that we would like to cover, but we have begun with voice, and therefore, by the way, voice is speech and ambient voice also. In telemedicine, I believe that the powerful tool will be the voice or the conversation, the contextual interpretation of the conversation. Later on, I believe that we will be able to add to this platform additional indicators and sources of input.
And then the big question, the business case you're seeing here?
The business case, I mean the business case or business model?
No, the business model.
We are working with hospitals, and we have the business model of selling the product to the hospitals. We also had consulted with our advisor about the price tag. That's a valid business model. But by the way, when looking at the regulation in West Europe and in the States, the market pulls for solutions that improve treatment efficiency like ours. So hospitals that will use this product may be benefited by the country or by the regulator for using this kind of solutions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, last but definitely not least, Yoav is going to tell us about how we can digitize clinical trials.
No movie? Really? No movie. Okay. So let's disrupt clinical trials. This is what we're going to do. So clinical trials are a critical piece of clinical development. These are complex, costly projects. Now, in recent years, industry leaders started saying that clinical trials are broken. Something is missing. From that point of time, patient voice just became much more significant. Now, the problems are known, from lengthening recruitment to patients that refuse to participate to 30% dropout rate. By the way, a couple of the reasons for it is that patients see their physician in the trial twice a year. Low rate of adherence. Now, these problems immediately impact the cost. Now, with 30,000 trials a year and the number continues to increase, the problem just gets bigger. And the question arises, is there a solution for it? So, looking on the landscape of solutions we have right now in clinical trials, there's patient adherence solutions, there are new tools to collect clinical and operational data. But something is still missing. That something is the patient. So the emotional, the thoughts, the feelings that drive behavior. This doesn't exist right now in the clinical trial, and there's no product to provide that holistic view of a patient. This is exactly what we are about to do. Focusing on the patient. Creating a clinical trial group, connecting the patients, engaging them, allowing them to share information, share experience, give feedback, and receive support. Now, by doing so, we will change significantly the patient experience in clinical trials. And only by doing so, we will be able to start to address these big problems: the recruitment, the dropout, and the adherence. Now, how we will do this? We're going to bring patients, caregivers, and medical team to the same trial group. Forums, blogs, chats. Now, this group is going to create a new layer of data. This layer doesn't exist right now in clinical trials. It's the behavioral data. We will be able to do this by using NLP to moderate the discussions, since not everything can be said in these forums, and using bots to create much more effective communication path. Taking our unstructured data and sponsors' structured data, it's the first time we'll be able to provide that holistic view of a patient. Clinical sentiment analysis, real-time behavior analytics, and predicting dropout and adherence. So, let's go into a trial. So Jeremy, our patient, Betty, site coordinator, Jim, a candidate, and our bot, Vicky. So a few months back, Vicky started to engage Jeremy in a clinical trial. So she sent him a notification on a coming visit he's going to do. He receives an answer. He gave an answer. Now, in his answer, we saw a negative sentiment. Negative sentiment that is correlated to dropout. Now we can update Betty, and she can start re-engaging Jeremy in the process. A few days after, Jeremy, he's a bit more engaged. Now he puts a post talking about the coming vacation. Now we know a trend in this specific trial that the previous 18 patients going on vacation, their adherence went down. Now we can take that insight, bring it to Betty, and Betty can have that discussion with Jeremy to make sure it will not happen to him. A few months later, Jeremy is completely engaged by now. He's a mentor to a different patient. He's providing him with insights from his experience and information. Now we can start extracting patients' concerns in the trial, candidate concerns before trial, or continuous patient feedback on the product. Now, why will this succeed? Because we're actually using a lot of components that already proven to be working. And just as an example, in communities, we already see a 71% increase in engagement. Text messages increase adherence in 20%. So from business model, we're talking about a fixed setup fee, variable fee depending on the volume of patients, the volume of users, and additional services, community management and manual moderation. The value we provide is reducing dropout and increasing adherence. This will save millions per trial. Now, from early adapters, we picked phase 4 after a lot of consideration. Phase 4, hundreds of patients for a lot of time, seeing their physician twice a year, 3 times a year. So our product have a very much value in this area. So where are we at right now? Market validation. We talk with more than 70 members of the industry, patients, physicians, pharma, and CROs. Great feedback we got there. Our MVP design in a late stage, NLP and AI development just started, and market traction. We got approval as part of a clinical protocol to enter 2 clinical trials, and we started discussions with 2 CRO on a future collaboration. For the team, so Yaniv is our CEO, 20 years with software development and customer success. Myself, I've been working in pharma industry for the last 10 years. all of it in clinical trials, biometrics, clinical operations, and others. And Eli, our Chief Data Officer, he was a biostatistician in clinical trials, and currently developing NLP and AI in healthcare and life science. This is how we see patient experience that drives clinical development success. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoav. Judges, any questions for Yoav?
Maybe one. Is there a way that this bot can get some kind of IP protection? Could you make higher barriers to your potential competition so they wouldn't step in?
So from a few discussions with a couple of patent organizations, we think that on the NLP and AI, we will be able to do that. So it's very specific for clinical trials. It's not healthcare in general. There are a couple of elements here that will not happen outside. So just as an example, moderating the discussions. So we don't want patients unblinding the clinical trial. So there's more than a few than this, of course, we mapped them. So we do think there will be. Thank you.
So I would like to say thank you so much for the 5 finalists. It was a great pleasure to actually listen to each of your ideas and your way of actually solving some very important problems around the world. Millions of patients are waiting out there, and when we talk about waiting, you also need to wait for the judges to actually make their decision. So you will have around 5 to 7 minutes to actually judge, and we will confiscate the microphones in the meanwhile, and then the people in the audience will actually be the one on stage. And how is that? I will showcase you a movie from a professor called Eric Schott, and we will see that, and then we will ask you some questions about Healthcare 2.0, and hopefully when we are done, they will be done judging. So let's see what he has to say.
So if you want to think about the future of medicine and what that entails, think today about the largest car company in the world. Uber doesn't own a single car. Think of the largest hotel chain in the world today. Airbnb doesn't own a single hotel. The biggest medical systems in the future are going to own no hospitals. It's going to be devices that are monitoring the lives of millions of patients simultaneously, that's looking to see, do you have the beginning signs of a cancer emerging, to not treat the cancer, but to prevent the cancer from ever occurring. Like that day is definitely coming. My name is Dr. Eric Schott. I'm director of the Icahn Institute at the Mount Sinai Health System in New York. Please call me Eric. I'm not a real doctor. Big data's impact on the practice of medicine is fundamentally going to transform the physician's ability to personalize care directly for you. And the way we're going to get that is you have a handheld device that has amazing capability, Bluetooth-enabled inhalers for asthma patients, scales, blood pressure monitors, EKG devices. The sequencing of the human genome, that first genome cost us $3 billion to sequence. Today you can do it for $1,000. We're going to have individualized models for each person that maps out their health course trajectory. It will be something that you're engaged in on a daily basis, but not necessarily actively. You're just being triggered if you need to be, because the algorithm says, okay, you're at super high risk in the next year of progressing into type 2 diabetes. So if you can catch that before the catastrophic state, then the person's not having to come into the hospital. So I grew up in rural Michigan. I had parents that were very religious, to the point of diminishing the role education should play. I was a kind of a very curious kid, and the home life got to the point where I felt like escape into the military was my path. Once I started college and started taking math and computer science, that it all clicked. I started in a field called differential geometry, proving things that maybe 10 people on the planet could get, and maybe there were 5 that actually cared about what you were doing. How can I put that horsepower into something more meaningful? And that's sort of where I gravitated to biomathematics. I think we have this shift in culture that says, being more open and sharing is good, but medicine hasn't kept up with that. I guarantee you what's in my Gmail is far more personal than what's in my medical record. The data has to be more accessible. The ultimate end game is you have this personalized therapy specifically tuned to who you are, the stuff that's going on inside of you. If a physician can know that, they can better serve the patient, better serve the health system, and it benefits everybody.
Good. So the first question I would like to ask the audience out there is actually, are you willing to give up your data in order to actually understand yourself and contribute to the science of the world? Anyone wants to answer this question as we're waiting for the judges? I know there's a guy over here in the corner. Are you willing to give your data?
Thank you so much, John.
Is it on?
Now? Yes, well, I do every day, I guess, to Facebook and Google and whatnot, so why not?
And the other question I would like to ask you, it's not that easy to be in the front line, is actually, giving up your data. I mean, would you also be able to, would you be willing to give out your DNA data, for instance, for scientists like Eric Schott to understand, your overall health better?
Not being a very medically educated person, I'm not sure I would be fully aware of the consequences of that, but subject to some healthy advice, I might consider it.
Great. Any other views on this area of big data and willingness to actually give your data away? Don't be shy. Yeah, great, there's some guys in the end. So I'm not forced to give the microphone to someone I know.
Hi, I think it depends on what country you're in and what kind of healthcare system is in place, because if you're in a nationalized healthcare system like in Denmark or in the UK, then it really is, you're not in danger of not getting coverage. But if you're in the US and you give up your data and then it seems like you have some pre-existing condition, maybe you don't want to give that up.
It's a super good point. There's another scientist called Michael Konsensky, and what he did was actually look into social media activities. And based on your activity on social media, he was actually able to predict who is going to make a criminal act in the future, who is going to have a stroke, and who will have depression, and many more things. Just based on your social media activity. How do you see this? Anyone wants to elaborate on this, on how you could, are you afraid of that, or it's something that you wouldn't care about? I mean, it would be okay for people to look into. So I can ask you. So would you be happy to actually have scientists like Michael Konsensky to actually look into your Facebook profile and actually be able to support you and tell you, will you have a stroke in the close future, or will you be up for depression?
Or commit a crime.
Or commit a crime, yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, yes and no. I think it's difficult to actually argue against from a rational point, but it still feels a bit creepy. I mean, especially in terms of this the crime thing, because I mean, obviously he's I don't know what kind of algorithm he's made, and I cannot really criticize the. But I'm just guessing that it's not like 100% bulletproof. So I mean, the consequences of getting it wrong might be severe. I don't know. I'm reserved, I guess, in terms of. giving my data up for him.
I think this is a super cool reflection also because there's many people that actually are willing to give their data away but actually not thinking about it. I think we need to acknowledge that the people that are sitting here today are all people with some fair amount of education and reflection, but a lot of people that are of lower educational level are actually willing to get out their data without even blinking with their eyes. And I think that's something we also need to remember. I think there's something saying here from Amir that there's no consequences.
No, what I'm saying is that we give such an amount of data using our Facebook, using all our social activities, that in fact, if I'm a hacker, I can look at your data. Most of the chances I will find the password between your date of birth and the date of your kids, and that's probably going to be your account number, and I can pretty much drill you down. So the question is not about giving the data, it's the matter of protection that is provided around it, I think, and the level of security that companies will use around the data. I mean, if anyone lives with some ideas that he has any personal data that is not out there, I mean, forget it. You know, that's a ridiculous. That's a thing of a very ancient past. The question is, who knows about you, and what type of use does he make with that data? And if you add to that your genome, the question is again, it's not only about your genome. It's about your family's genome. It's not my point, by the way. I picked it up from another discussion, so I have to give credit where due. But that's another consideration.
It's a super good reflection point.
I noticed that when they were giving their presentations, some of you guys had some questions to some of the presenters. Anybody left with any questions? Yes.
The question that I want to make to the presenters is the fact that nobody talked about the diet of the patients at all, which is a very important factor, what you eat in general. That's what I want to ask. I think that's a huge, for topic, because there are many parameters after, in the whole, thing that you want to build. But the diet is so important that nobody talked about that.
Anas, maybe you want to take that, because I know...
Actually, perhaps I didn't underline it well enough, but when I was talking about self-care actions, when I was talking about self-care actions and trying to get data on that, one of the things is actually the diet, like I was saying, cutting down on dairy products, for instance, could be a self-care actions to make your skin get better. So that would be one of the things that I would be looking at, whether changing your diet would help your skin get better in combination with skincare products and drugs. So I want to put the spotlight on all the things that you do to get better that hasn't got anything to do with skincare products and drugs. Yeah, so hopefully I will put some spotlight on diet as well.
Any other questions from the audience to the 5 finalists?
That's follow-up.
Yes. Thank you.
Did any of the presenters thought about having a heart rate monitor for a fair amount of time? Because you have a certain circadian rhythm every day, and not just about your voice, or it's more important knowing how your heart beats in terms of how your everyday life is, stressful, not stressful in general. And then have a fair amount of time that you can measure that, okay, you go up and down, in facts of stress and all this kind of parameters.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, so we do have the capability to do that. It didn't get highlighted in the presentation. So we do integrate with the other wearables, also your activity monitors, not just heart rate variability monitor, which is better predictor of stress. So yes, that's useful. And more recently, we have found some people doing just putting your thumb next to the iPhone camera, and it can detect your heart rate with plus or minus 10% accuracy. So you don't even need a device to do that. You can do it through your phone.
And I think that many of the solutions over here are platforms. I mean, platforms that you can apply
any type of data. Sensors, I mean, you have today many sensors that one of them, or some of them are sensors that you are talking about. When you are talking about platforms, platforms that can include or use data from multiple sensors, that's the innovation today, as I see it.
Okay, so I will just quickly mention that the judges now have finalized their judging, and thank you all for being active in this session, despite that maybe it was not quite fair for all, but thank you so much for being part of it. Kristian, please.
This one then, thank you. Thank you very much, first of all, to all you guys for the presentation. They were super, no, it's okay, this one. They were super good, and we have been very impressed, I think, about the quality and the level of all of them. So we have had a little bit of tough discussions at the table. But what we have been looking at, really, is that which ones are mainly fitting the criteria we gave to begin with. Both from a point of view of Leo Innovation Lab and a point of view also for the eHealth Ventures in terms of which ones do we see is linking closely into the derma field, and which one do we see an opportunity where we can help in the 3 months incubation period to really gain some amazing footsteps forward, and then also giving them an opportunity to actually have an investment later on, or a term sheet hopefully from the eHealth Ventures, which is really what we're looking for in order to speed and accelerate the growth of the company. So, and we have decided to look at 2 companies. So there will be one winner and only one winner, but we were discussing forward and backwards, and we would like to mention that we have a very close runner up in number 2, and then what we call an honorable number 2. And that is the Cognion from Singapore. We were extremely impressed by the work, by the team, and how far you are in the way of thinking, and how you apply the thinking into the derm field. And we will definitely be following you and talking to you along the way to figure out how we can help there. So I think we should give them a hand. And then for the first prize, which of course is a 3 months incubation with the Leo Innovation Lab, where we'll put our team in and try to help you along the way to guide you on what we believe is going to be the path, and also very closely with eHealth Ventures. So the number 1 prize goes to our clinical trials. What we believe very much in our clinical trials is it's an area that is super interesting. It's an area that is growing at the moment and is globally amazing amount of money. It's also an area that is super conservative and broken, really. And what we believe in your way is that we haven't seen anybody looking at it that way, and we believe there's a huge opportunity going that way. So we're super excited to see how that develops.
Thank you.
But again, before we end, I think we should all give all of them a hand, because I think it has been super, super exciting, and it's thank you very much. And just as everybody, we will keep the contact with all of you. We have some ideas with some of you guys that we will continue also to follow up on. So thank you. And I think that was it. We need, just before everybody leaves, we need a picture with all of you guys and us on the stage. Thank you.